Welcome to another episode of the Business Spotlight. I am joined today by Michelle Merced. Michelle, thank you, number one, for taking the time to do this. I know that time is very valuable, so we appreciate you doing this and being on the Business Spotlight. I wanted to share with the network, what you guys do as a nonprofit and how you guys are making an impact in the community and the Business Spotlight. Michelle, number one, I'm very excited to learn more about you and the business and what makes you guys special here in our Las Vegas Valley. Number two, it's going to help on the be introduced to my network and also the Action Coach Network. So without further ado, Michelle, can you tell us a little bit about yourself and the business and how long have you been doing it?
So one, thank you so much, Edgar, for having me. My name is Michelle Merced. I'm the President CEO for Neighborhood Housing Services of Southern Nevada. I have been with the organization for 15 years, officially this year. The organization has been around for 30. We just celebrated our 30th anniversary last year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And we do everything centered around housing. So we are an affordable housing developer. Along with we own and we manage 159 units today that are scattered across the valley. We are in, I'm not even going to say our infant stages because we will have a ribbon cutting for our first low-income housing tax development, which is a two-phase project of 120 units of senior affordable housing.
Wow.
On top of, we have a homeownership department that does pre-purchase counseling, post-counseling, foreclosure counseling, homebuyer education, and down payment assistance, along with reverse mortgage counseling. And then our last line of business is community building engagement, which is our grassroots efforts. We have anywhere between 4 to 6 events a year that we love to partner with another local nonprofit, whether it be for food or our local fire department, of which we will host a pancake breakfast and kind of just get in bed with the community and just make sure that we're part of it.
That's amazing. I love organizations that are always trying to get that exposure and build those relationships with the community, because that's what leads to the mission, right? And what you guys are trying to do with the housing. So I did want to ask one question as far as, what do you feel people most misunderstood about your guys' industry?
Well, I think that's a great question, number one. I think, and it's such a great way to start, because nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. That's a tax model. We still have to keep the lights on. I still have to pay fair and competitive wages to my team, or they pretty much will go somewhere else. But that's just like one side of it, right? So nonprofit doesn't mean no profit. That's one. Two, I think the stigma of affordable housing. We are such key players in the industry of real estate. And I say this wholeheartedly because, there is a stigma behind affordable housing. People think that this is where the riffraff lives, or it's the ghetto. These are working class neighbors, as part of our community, that it's somebody's start and beginning. I have a 23-year-old son. He has to figure out how to navigate through this new world. And, one of the things post-COVID, real estate hasn't stopped. It continues to increase. And so affordable housing is really a stepping stone into maybe somebody's first time of renting their first home or renting a unit. So as developers, we always hear those words of NIMBY, not in my backyard. I would love for everybody that's listening to really understand that affordable housing is somebody's beginning. And as we continue to build senior affordable housing, the name of our development is called the Golden Rule. It really is about living in dignity, whether it be somebody's beginning, middle, or even, living at the very end. So those are some of the things that I would love for our community to understand. especially as we continue to grow here in Vegas. You know, somebody recently said to me, oh, that's where the Section 8 people live. You know, I think that we need to make sure we continue to educate and advocate that people just don't even know what affordable housing looks like.
Right.
And so, yeah, hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, no, it does for sure. And I think that's fantastic. It's the educational piece that I think most people need to understand, right? What the mission is and what it is. You know, for me, from my perspective, when I first got out of the Marine Corps and trying to understand, you know, how to navigate Vegas was very interesting. So had I known your guys' organization, right, and having that exposure, right, to be able to connect those right pieces to have an affordable housing and saying, hey, this is just the first step, and then just growing from that. So I think that's fantastic what you guys' organization is doing. You know, part of the business spotlight, Michelle, is to educate and inspire people who are thinking about pursuing entrepreneurship or are on the cusp of, hey, what's it going to take to get into business, right? What's been the biggest learning curve since you started with your industry?
So my background was actually in lending, and I came to neighborhood housing services because I wanted to give back to the community. Mm-hmm. And through that was through education, as you mentioned, and we offer a 8-hour homebuyer education class. And I said, hey, you know what? I'd love to be that arm in helping our community learn more about what it takes to buy their first home. And financing, you know, to this degree is probably one of their largest purchases of their life. You know, to buy a house during 2010, you know, is it a foreclosure? Is it a short sale? And so I wanted to help navigate those first-time home buyers. As far as learning curve for me here on the nonprofit side, I can tell you, so many. I'm actually writing a book about this. Funding. There's a lot of funding around, you know, and for me, what I can toot my horn in is I am great in fostering and building relationships. And I think it's really important that if you're in the space, especially as the president and CEO, is to make sure that when you say you're going to do something, you follow through. And it's not just a lot of talk, it's follow through with action and purpose. I came from the for-profit world, which things changed on a dime, you know, in banking, you know, today's compliance is not going to be tomorrow's.
Right.
And decisions were made through so many levels. You know, you had to have an ad hoc committee, you had to do this. So it was like chains of command. When you get to a nonprofit level, you can make decisions like this. But for me, it was more of the funding space, where when I got here in 2008, it was a lot of competition on the funding, in collaboration. And me coming in, the learning curve was, I don't understand how can we work together? Mm-hmm. Because at the end of the day, isn't it about our product is the people? And so as many people as we can help, that productivity should then drive the decision of some of our funders.
Right.
And so that was a big learning curve for me, because it was, when we say not in my backyard, it was almost not in my backyard between, and there's my chief operating officer. How organic is that, right?
Right.
The learning curve was really, we shouldn't be able to compete with the funding. We should learn how we can collaborate and work together. And I'll give you an example. We are truly the arm of our nonprofit communities that don't carry real estate. And so we stay in our lane. We focus on strictly housing, and we make sure that we are mindful on who we collaborate with, because our partners focus on the supportive services side. We don't do anything case management. We have asked and we pushed back and said, hey, we would love for you to see insert, just say Family Promise or insert Shade Tree, because those are, they are the masters of case management and the supportive services. Where we really say, we are the experts in making sure that you have a safe place to call home.
Yeah.
Hopefully that, that answers that question for you.
Yeah. And I think that's really important. Like something you just said right now is knowing what your lane is. And I think that's like in business, right? When we're coaching a lot of our business clients, they're trying to do too much. And they're trying to navigate, well, I know I could do this. I know we can do this, but what are you really good at? And then it's building the relationships with the other subject matter experts that complement each other's businesses. Right.
And I think that's key, because I would never be the first person to say, oh, let me go in there and help a veteran identify ways in the supportive services. It's not my niche. Right. But my niche is, hey, I can refer you to somebody that has these expertise. And what we can do is we can make sure that, again, you have a safe and habitable, beautiful place to call home. Because for us, being the niche of housing, having a safe place to call home is so instrumental and is truly the foundation of anything that you're dealing with. Yeah. And I just had this conversation earlier because unfortunately my father passed away of cancer. Oh, no. I'm not taking away from cancer. I think it's really important to continue to find ways to cure it. But what I am saying is, for those that are dealing with it, if they didn't have a safe place to call home or rest their head at night, right, how are you gonna deal with the other stuff, like the health issues?
Right. Yeah, that's tough, and it's not easy losing a loved one, but it is something that we have to advocate for, and knowing that your organization's there to help through that is great in the community. What advice would you give 20-year-old Michelle that was just getting into business?
Find a mentor. So insert whatever your 20-year-old self wants to be, right? And who knows? I mean, geez, at 20 years old, even now, as I talk to my 23-year-old son, who says something like, oh my God, I want to move to San Francisco. And I was like, hey, that's a great idea. I love San Francisco. That'd be a great place to live. He's like, but Mom, it's so expensive. And then I go back and say, okay, so go make expensive money. What does that look like?
Right.
Find your passion. So for me, I can tell you, it took a minute. It took a minute to figure out, especially at 20. So I would say, find something that you're really passionate about. And I know it sounds so cliche, but once you find something that you are truly passionate about, it's not going to feel like work. It becomes so much more natural. And then you're even more excited to be engaged and involved, right? And so my calling took a minute, but I can tell you, I knew when I was a little kid because, again, first generation American, my parents come from the Philippines, and we came from a really big family. And so, short story, when family would come down from the Philippines, there was always it was very natural that my dad would say, okay, we're going to Disneyland, we're going to Universal, we're going to Hollywood Boulevard. Like, it was a routine for his family. And one of the things that I observed at a very young age was homeless people. And so I tied, going to Hollywood Boulevard in the 80s was not glitz and glamour, but I saw homeless people always digging through the trash. And as a child, I connected trash with homeless people. And so I used to put money in the trash all the time. And my parents would flip out. What are you doing putting money in the trash? And I'm like, because then they can have something to eat, because they can have somewhere to sleep. And so for me, it was actually connecting the dots. It took a little bit longer. I knew that I loved real estate, but then I said, I have to tie it with a purpose. And so to tell my 20-year-old self, listen to your parents, because they're not dumb. They know what they're talking about. They've been there before. We've heard it even from our own kids, which is, I know, but you don't understand. It's like, oh, honey, we've been there, right? So 1, listen to your parents, and 2, find your purpose. It's so important, because you don't want to ever get into a career. I don't want to say just a job, right?
Right.
You never want to get into a career of which you're bored and you don't have that purpose. Once you lose that purpose, then it just is a job.
Yeah.
And, it's not fun. So that's what I would tell my 20-year-old self.
Yeah, I think that's really good information, and I think a lot of people will find this conversation very valuable. But finding a mentor, even the most successful people have a mentor,
Oh, absolutely.
right? And
And
it's
you have to.
yeah,
Even and hopefully you find, I think it's important, the mentor you find has to tell, you have to be okay with eating crow every once in a while and failing. I call it failing successfully, because if you don't fail, then how are you going to learn and grow? And it's so valuable, those steps, to have somebody that's going to be a sounding board to tell you, would you consider, could you consider, or have you thought of? Even sometimes saying you screwed up, and that be okay too, because that's what mentors do. Is their whole goal, and hopefully those that listen to this, is to help you be your better self, whatever you choose to do in your career.
Yeah, that's a very, very good. I know us as business coaches, we work with a lot of smart and talented people, right? Whether it's a doctor, a lawyer, architects, engineers, or people in the nonprofit world who are learning how to grow, they're learning how to expand, and some of them are even at the stage of like they have to start to learn to delegate, right? And they have to learn how to bring on the right talent and how to put those people in the right seats to do the best job possible. If you really think about it, everything that we've ever learned, we learn from someone. So it's very interesting that you say mentor. As kids, we had our parents to teach us the fundamentals, right? Then we went to school and we had the teachers who started to teach us, the valuable skill sets and the gifts that we were given. Now, even in business, we have business coaches, right? We have mentors and other successful people who are pushing us and holding us accountable. Like you said, eat crow.
Yeah.
As a business coach, we're going to give it to you very direct. And this is what your purpose is. This is what your mission is. Are you doing the things that you said you're going to do to be successful? Or are we coming up with excuses and saying we're busy? Right.
And again, to have a business coach or a mentor, you're only going to get out of it what you put in. And so it's so important that by finding the right mentor, and for me, it wasn't just one. I had a few and continuous. I still have a great, probably, a handful of mentors that they may not know each other, but collectively they all bring something to the table to help me grow, not only as in my career, but as an individual. If there's one thing I've learned, especially from my father, you get one chance here. You have to make the best of it. Yeah. So it's kind of like, what's your mark? You may not want to, some people want to be a millionaire. Some people are okay just kind of doing the day-to-day, but whatever that looks like, you want to surround yourself with people that's going to help you move the needle and have those difficult conversations, because not everybody is okay with eating crow.
Yeah, 100%. As we wrap up today's business spotlight, Michelle, is there anything that I did not ask that you did want to let the viewers know?
I would say get involved. I think this is very important, especially as we pivot into post-COVID, and it's been, the climate has changed from an economic standpoint. And I will say, don't believe everything you read on the internet. Very important. Don't believe everything you read on the internet, and get involved. If those that are listening want to do things in an entrepreneurial space, especially if you're looking to be in the nonprofit space, for us, our product is the community. Like, for example, Coca-Cola has a very easy model. Theirs is Coca-Cola. Ours is the people. And so as people continue to learn about nonprofit organizations, take us seriously. We are game changers in the industry, whether it be in the housing space or on the supportive services side. We are the game changers. We want to make sure to continuously help those be better. That's why it's that's why we're here. It truly is a labor of love. And when I say get involved, you can join a committee, you can join a board, and it's not difficult to do. You just have to ask, and you have to find your passion. So whatever insert passion, find the nonprofit, speak to the executive director, and see if there's a place for you to volunteer, because it's the crux of a nonprofit organization. And for those that are entrepreneur, just think of it like you are the consultant for people like us to help move the needle in the space in our community. And so that's really my 2-minute elevator speech is just get involved.
Yeah. I think just having a start point, right? And then seeing it for themselves firsthand and getting involved. And then that's what drives that passion. Michelle, what's the best way for people to connect with you if they're looking, to get involved with your organization?
So I will say definitely contact, first start at our website, www.mynhssn, Nancy, Henry, Sam, Nancy.org. I would say start there. You can always reach me by email. I'm good with email, guys, which is M like Michelle, and then my last name, Merced, MERCED, at, and then it's mynhssn.org. They can always email me. If you don't want to get involved with my organization, I partner with all the nonprofits here in town. I'm collectively, I've got so many people I can refer them to depending on what their cause is. And so if they want to get involved, just let me know, and hopefully I can refer them to the right person. But yeah, those are the two ways. Or you can call my office, 702-649-0998.
Well, thank you, Michelle, for being on this episode of the Business Spotlight. We thank you again for taking the time, and I know a lot of people will definitely find this conversation valuable.
Thank you so much, Edgar. It was awesome. I appreciate it. Anytime.